Imagine a civilization so advanced, so artistic, and so powerful that its influence stretched across the entire ancient Mediterranean. A society of master sailors, brilliant architects, and gifted artists, living in magnificent palaces without walls because they feared no one. This was the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete, a Bronze Age superpower that suddenly, mysteriously, vanished from history. What happened to them? Today, we re-diving deep into one of archaeology's greatest unsolved mysteries, the collapse of the Minoan civilization. For over 1,000 years, from around 2700 to 1450 BC, the Minoans flourished. Their grand palaces at Knossos, Phaistos, and Malea were sprawling complexes. Not just royal residences, but centers of administration, religion, and trade. They were decorated with vibrant frescoes depicting scenes of daily life, nature, and curious rituals like bull leaping. The Minoans developed their own writing system, Linear A, which to this day remains undeciphered. Their pottery and crafts were highly prized. Traded as far as Egypt and the Near East, they built paved roads, sophisticated drainage systems, and commanded a powerful navy that ruled the Aegean Sea. They were, in essence, the first great European civilization. And then, around 1450 BC, it all came to a devastating halt. The palaces were destroyed, the bustling towns were abandoned, and the vibrant culture seemed to disappear almost overnight. For centuries, the cause of this sudden collapse has been a subject of intense debate among historians and archaeologists. One of the leading theories points to a natural disaster of cataclysmic proportions, the eruption of the Thera volcano. Around 1600 BC, the nearby island of Thera, now known as Santorini, exploded in one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history. The blast was hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb. It triggered massive tsunamis that would have slammed into the northern coast of Crete, wiping out the Minoan fleet, destroying coastal towns, and salinating farmland. The sheer volume of volcanic ash ejected into the atmosphere would have blocked out the sun, leading to a volcanic winter. This would have caused crop failures, famine, and a complete breakdown of the Minoan economy, which was heavily reliant on agriculture and maritime trade. For a long time, the Thera eruption was seen as the smoking gun. It seemed like a perfect explanation for the widespread destruction. However, there's a problem with the timeline. Modern dating techniques show the eruption happened around 1600 BC, but the final, catastrophic destruction of the Minoan palaces occurred about 150 years later, around 1450 BC. So, while the eruption undoubtedly weakened the Minoans severely, it doesn't seem to be the final knockout blow. This brings us to another compelling theory: invasion. After being crippled by the aftermath of the Thera eruption, the Minoans would have been vulnerable. Their navy, once their greatest defense, may have been in ruins. Their economy was shattered, and their population was likely diminished. This was the perfect opportunity for a rising power from mainland Greece to strike: the Mycenaeans. The Mycenaeans were a more militaristic society, known for their fortified citadels and warrior culture. Archaeological evidence supports this idea. After 1450 BC, Mycenaean-style weapons and pottery start appearing all over Crete. The Minoan script, Linear A, is replaced by Linear B, an early form of Greek used by the Mycenaeans. It seems the Mycenaeans didn't just invade, they took over. They occupied the palace of Knossos and ruled Crete for the next century, absorbing what was left of the Minoan culture into their own. So, what really happened? The most likely answer is a combination of both theories. The Thera eruption didn't destroy the Minoans outright, but it triggered a domino effect. It crippled their navy, devastated their economy, and plunged their society into a long-term crisis. A weakened, struggling civilization became easy prey for the ambitious and aggressive Mycenaeans, who delivered the final blow. The mystery of the Minoan collapse is a powerful reminder of how even the most brilliant civilizations can be brought down by a convergence of natural disaster and human conflict. The story of the Minoans is a fascinating puzzle, and with every new discovery, we get one step closer to understanding their incredible rise and tragic fall. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. See you next time. Have you ever heard the story of Atlantis, the magnificent city that sank beneath the waves in a single day and night? For centuries, people thought it was just a myth, a legend told by the philosopher Plato. But what if I told you there was a real city, a true-life Atlantis, that suffered the exact same fate? Today, we're diving deep into the past to uncover the incredible story of Helike, the lost city of ancient Greece. Imagine a bustling, prosperous city-state, the leader of the Achaean League, perched on the coast of the Gulf of Corinth. This was Helike, a city famous for its magnificent temple dedicated to Poseidon, the god of the sea and earthquakes. Its people were wealthy, its culture was vibrant, and its influence was felt across the ancient world. But their devotion to the sea god wouldn't save them from his wrath. The winter of 373 BC was unlike any other. For 5 days, strange phenomena were reported. Animals, from snakes and weasels to centipedes, fled the city in massive droves, heading for the mountains. The residents watched, bewildered, but couldn't have known it was a terrifying omen of what was to come. Then, one fateful night, disaster struck. A massive earthquake shook the very foundations of Helike, but it wasn't just one quake. It was a series of powerful tremors that shattered the city. As buildings crumbled and the ground split open, a monstrous tsunami, a colossal wave born from the quake, rose from the Gulf of Corinth. It crashed over the coastline, completely submerging what was left of Helike. In a single night, the entire city and all its inhabitants were swallowed by the sea. When morning came, there was nothing left but water. Rescue ships that arrived found only the tops of trees from the sacred grove of Poseidon poking through the surface. Fishermen would later report snagging their nets on the submerged ruins. For over 2,000 years, Helike became a legend, just like Atlantis. Ancient writers like Pausanias and Strabo chronicled its demise, turning it into a cautionary tale. Many scholars believed the story was either entirely fictional or that the city was lost forever, buried too deep beneath the sea and sediment to ever be found. The search seemed hopeless. Was it a myth? Or was it waiting to be rediscovered? The search for Helike was a modern archaeological epic. For decades, explorers scoured the seafloor of the Gulf of Corinth, but found nothing. Then, in the late 1980s, 2 archaeologists, Dora Katsontoulo and Stephen Soder, proposed a radical new theory. What if Helike wasn't in the deep sea at all? They believed that over the centuries, river sediment had filled in the coastal area, creating a new lagoon and pushing the shoreline outwards. This meant the ruins of Helike were now buried inland under dry land. They were right. In 2001, after years of painstaking work, drilling, and geophysical surveys, their team finally located the ruins of the lost city. They found walls, pottery, coins, and even the skeletons of its unfortunate residents, all buried under meters of clay and silt. They had found the real Atlantis, not deep in the ocean, but hidden beneath a coastal plain. The discovery was monumental, confirming the ancient accounts and bringing the tragic story of Helike back to life. The story of Helike is a powerful reminder that some legends are rooted in truth. It's a tale of nature's immense power, of a city lost in an instant, and of the incredible persistence of those who refuse to let its memory fade. It proves that history is still out there, buried just beneath our feet, waiting for us to uncover its secrets. What other myths might be real? Thanks for joining us on this journey to ancient Greece. If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the past. See you next time. Have you ever wondered about those giant stone heads staring out from a remote island? That's Easter Island, or Rapanui, one of the most isolated places on Earth, famous for its nearly 900 monumental statues called moai. These aren't just heads. Most of them have full bodies buried underground. Carved by the Rapanui people between the 13th and 16th centuries, these statues are a marvel of ancient engineering. The average moai weighs about 14 tons and stands 13 feet tall. The largest one, named Paro, was over 33 feet high and weighed a staggering 82 tons. How did they move these behemoths from the quarry, where they were carved to their final resting places, sometimes miles away? For a long time, the prevailing theory was pretty bleak. It suggested the islanders cut down all their trees to make log rollers, which led to deforestation, soil erosion, and eventually the collapse of their civilization. This story served as a cautionary tale about environmental destruction. But is it the whole truth? Modern research and the Rapanui people themselves offer a different, more incredible explanation. Imagine this: the statues walked. Oral traditions of the Rapanui people have always maintained that the moai walked to their platforms. It sounds like a legend, right? But recent experiments have shown it might be possible. Using only ropes and manpower, teams of people could have rocked the statues side to side, inching them forward in a walking motion. Think of trying to move a heavy refrigerator across your kitchen. You don't lift it. You rock it and shuffle it forward. This method wouldn't have required massive amounts of lumber, challenging the deforestation collapse theory. So what really happened to the trees? While some were likely used, new evidence points to other factors. The Polynesian rat, which arrived with the first settlers, may have eaten the palm tree seeds, preventing the forests from regrowing. The island's climate and fragile ecosystem also played a role. It seems the story isn't a simple one of self-destruction. Instead, it's a story of incredible ingenuity and resilience. The Rapanui people were brilliant engineers and navigators who settled a remote island and created a sophisticated society with incredible artistic and cultural achievements. They adapted to their challenging environment for centuries. The arrival of Europeans in the 18th century brought diseases and slave raids, which truly devastated the population, not a self-inflicted collapse. Today, Easter Island is a testament to human creativity and the complexity of history. The moai aren't symbols of failure. They're symbols of the Rapanui people's strength and ingenuity. They remind us that sometimes the most amazing stories are the true ones, and that ancient peoples were far more clever than we often give them credit for. What do you think? Did the statues walk? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys into the past. Imagine a magnificent city carved directly into rose-red cliffs, a bustling hub of commerce and culture, home to over 20,000 people. Now, imagine it completely vanishing from the world's memory for over 1,000 years. This isn't a fantasy novel. It's the true story of Petra. So, how did one of the ancient world's most spectacular cities become a lost legend? Let's rewind to its golden age. Around the 4th century BC, a nomadic Arab tribe called the Nabateans settled in this hidden valley in modern-day Jordan. Their genius wasn't just in carving breathtaking temples and tombs into the sandstone. They were masters of water engineering. In the middle of a harsh desert, they built a sophisticated system of dams, cisterns, and channels to capture every drop of precious rainwater. This control over water turned Petra into a lush, artificial oasis. This oasis became a crucial pit stop on the ancient Silk Road. Camel caravans laden with silk from China, spices from India, and incense from Arabia had to pass through Petra. The Nabateans grew incredibly wealthy by taxing these caravans and providing them with water and safety. Their capital city bloomed. The famous treasury, the monastery, the street of facades, these weren't just buildings. They were statements of power and prosperity, blending Eastern and Western architectural styles. At its peak, Petra was a vibrant multicultural metropolis. But empires rise and fall. In 106 AD, the mighty Roman Empire annexed the Nabatean kingdom. Petra continued to thrive for a while under Roman rule, but its fortunes began to change. New sea trade routes started bypassing the old desert caravan paths, slowly draining Petra of its lifeblood, trade. Then, a devastating earthquake in 363 AD crippled the city, destroying many buildings and, crucially, its vital water management system. The population began to dwindle. As Christianity spread, many of its temples were converted into churches, but the city was already in a state of irreversible decline. By the 7th century, with the rise of new powers and shifting trade routes, Petra was almost completely abandoned. It was left to the wind, the sand, and the local Bedouin tribes, who knew of its existence, but kept its location a secret. For the outside world, Petra faded from history into myth, a rumored ghost city in the Arabian desert. For over 1,000 years, it remained hidden. Crusaders briefly occupied the area in the 12th century, but they too eventually left, and the city's location was lost to the west once more. It was NT until 1812 that a young Swiss explorer named Johann Ludwig Burckhardt heard whispers from local Bedouins about a fantastical lost city. Disguising himself as an Arab scholar, he convinced a guide to lead him to a supposed tomb. He was led through a narrow, winding canyon, the Sick. Imagine his astonishment as the canyon walls opened up to reveal the magnificent sunlit facade of the treasury. He had rediscovered Petra. Burckhardt's discovery sparked a wave of fascination across Europe. Painters, poets, and adventurers flocked to witness the lost city for themselves, slowly unveiling its secrets to the world. Today, Petra is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, visited by hundreds of thousands each year. But as we walk through its majestic avenues, it's incredible to think that for a millennium, this wonder of the world was nothing more than a ghost, a forgotten whisper in the desert sands. Thanks for joining this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more hidden histories. See you next time. Imagine this. You're hiking through the vast, sun-baked landscapes of the American Southwest. You round a corner, and there, tucked into the side of a massive cliff, is an entire city. Intricate stone buildings, multiple stories high, perfectly preserved. It looks like the inhabitants just walked away yesterday. But they didn't. They left over 700 years ago, and we're still trying to figure out exactly why. These are the incredible cliff dwellings of the Ancestral Puebloans, and their sudden abandonment is one of history's most compelling mysteries. Who were these master builders? The Ancestral Puebloans were a Native American culture that flourished in the Four Corners region of the United States from about 100 to 1600 AD. They weren't a single tribe, but a collection of distinct groups who shared common cultural traits. We often call them the Anasazi, a Navajo word, but many modern Pueblo people prefer Ancestral Puebloans because it more accurately reflects their heritage. They were expert farmers, cultivating corn, beans, and squash in a challenging, arid environment. They were also brilliant architects and engineers. Their journey began with simple pit houses dug into the ground. Over centuries, their skills evolved. They started building impressive multi-story complexes above ground, known as great houses. You've probably heard of Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. That's one of their most famous creations, a true urban center of its time. Then, around the year 1150, something changed. They started moving their homes from the open canyon floors to these incredible, hard-to-reach alcoves in the cliffs. Think about the effort. They had to haul every single stone, every log, every drop of water up sheer cliff faces. Places like Mesa Verde in Colorado and Cliff Palace are breathtaking examples. These weren't just a few houses. They were thriving communities with hundreds of rooms, kivas for ceremonies, and storage areas, all nestled high above the ground. Why build in such a difficult defensive location? It's a huge clue. It suggests they were feeling threatened. Maybe it was conflict with other groups, or even internal strife. Building in the cliffs offered a clear advantage for defense. It's much easier to protect your home when the only way in is a narrow, easily guarded path. But then, the biggest mystery of all unfolds. Between about 1275 and 1300, in a remarkably short period, they left. Not just a few people, but tens of thousands abandoned these magnificent cities they had spent generations building. The plazas fell silent, the homes were left empty, and the cliff dwellings were surrendered to the wind and time. Why? Archaeologists believe it wasn't one single event, but a perfect storm of factors. The biggest culprit seems to be climate change. Tree ring data tells us that a massive, prolonged drought, known as the Great Drought, hit the region in the late 13th century. Imagine trying to grow crops when it barely rains for over 2 decades. The springs would have dried up, the harvests would have failed, and famine would have been a constant threat. With resources becoming scarce, social and political tensions likely skyrocketed. The defensive posture of the cliff dwellings suddenly makes even more sense. People were likely competing for what little food and water was left. There's archaeological evidence of violence and conflict from this period, which supports this idea. So, facing environmental collapse, resource depletion, and social unrest, the ancestral Puebloans made a difficult choice: to move. It wasn't a disappearance, but a migration. They moved south and east, towards areas with more reliable water sources, like the Rio Grande Valley in New Mexico and the Hopi Mesas in Arizona. Their descendants are the modern Pueblo peoples who live in these regions today, the Hopi, Zuni, Acama, and the various Rio Grande Pueblo communities. They didn't vanish. They adapted and endured. Their oral traditions and stories still speak of these migrations and their ancestral homes. So the next time you see a picture of Mesa Verde or another cliff dwelling, don't just see an empty ruin. See a testament to human resilience, a story of incredible ingenuity, and a powerful reminder of how societies must adapt to a changing world. It's a mystery with a solution, not of disappearance, but of survival. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the past. If you found this fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe for more historical mysteries. See you next time.